confidence is where a lot of the speed comes in. Oh my goodness! Saves it! How in the world?
It comes from very far back, but was able to get the car slowed up.
And he knew. Look at how early he positioned himself. I would not have been that confident. That is amazing. What a save from Waring. And there, yeah, that is brave stuff. Rent doesn't usually offer up a chance to pass. And then Waring, who was eager to try and retake it, looked like I thought he was going to get a great run on the front stretch, just goosed it too hard.
Oh, and their teammates apparently, from what I've been told. So yeah, rule number 1: never hit your teammate. And let's take a look at what happened. So that's Karjalainen going around the outside of the S's, getting the car to roll through. He's got the inside for the corner, a little bit of a slide. And I don't know about you, DJ, but that's gonna be racing Itsen, I think, 50-50.
Olton is a very, very narrow circuit. You're not able to get as clear as you think, as we got a little bit of side-by-side talk about aggressive moves from a Jordan Svetnov.
Jordan Svetnov's not done, though, here, because Steven Orr was trying to get back underneath.
We're still side by side with Sanchez, though. He's given it another go. Did he learn lessons from last time? This time he cuts back a lot earlier. Will that help him out as he goes for the back and forth once again? But this time, Walker is the one who has gotten wise from that one. He covers off, clear around the outside, though. Holy cow! Sanchez learned his own little trick, and that's the one that gets him the spot.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings, where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Initially announced on your average April 1st, people thought Dirt would be another April Fool's joke. Except it wasn't. What iRacing brought to the table was the dreams of many a racing fan, the chance to go sideways and to do so in a fast fashion. This is what the Big Block Modified was for. This is what Weed Sport Speedway is for. Welcome to chaos in the best possible sense. This is the America's Majors Series, and we have Modified Mayhem on the global SimRacing channel. Good evening, race fans who are looking for the trials and tribulations of dirt action here today, just a stone's throw from Syracuse. I'm Jake Sperry, bringing you the coverage today, along with Devin Henry. Behind the scenes for this show is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A small turn off of the New York Thruway at exit 40. This is where we find our battleground today. To understand the home of dirt car, let's take a look at our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to the Cayuga County Fairgrounds and home to Weed Sport Speedway. Located only about 60 miles from another famous New York track, Watkins Glen, and a stone's throw away from Lake Ontario, this place puts on a lot of action in the dirt variety. This 3/8 of a mile clay surface oval is unique because of its shape. The front straightaway is straight, but outside of that, this place is totally asymmetrical. Heading into one, many guys will make a sharp apex, swing out, and then apex again for turn 2. It's not the sweeping corner that it looks like from a track map. The exit of 2 leads onto the curved backstretch that gives the speedway a D shape. But the backstretch blends into turn 3, and it's not nearly as sharp as an entry as 1. But you head off into 4 and get another apex that'll set you up for the front stretch. A lot of driving happens in 3/8 of a mile. In 1975, Weed Sport's then owner founded what has become the Dirt Car Series, and Wii Sport was its home. So it is more known for stock car and modified racing, but those sprints appear here as well. In fact, both USAC and World of Outlaws sprint cars make regular trips, but those big block modifieds are king here. But it is a weekly track, so you have your usual complement of local modified, stocks, and other classes. Don't let the only 11 degrees of banking and the sharper corners here fool you. This place is fast and action-packed. Now it's time to see who will rise above at Weed Sport here on GSRC.
That's a little understanding of what this 3/8 of a mile circuit can bring, and it is truly a very tricky small track when it comes to dirt oval scenes. Now, Devon, when you take a little look at this place, it's not essentially the easiest thing in the world to get your head around. It looks pretty mundane when it comes to how this track looks, but if you squint a little bit hard at it, it does look a little bit like a crushed candy corn. This is one of those circuits where you do have to be switched on every time you go around.
Yes, this track is even difficult for the best of the pros in the real world. Look at that track. I mean, it doesn't even look like a racetrack. It looks like some 5-year-old kid was trying to make a circle with his eyes closed. That's about what you get here at Weed Sport. This is a 3/8 mile dirt D-shaped oval is what we're going to call it, that opened back on July 24th, 1955. And it's basically had this same layout since about 3-4 years after it opened. So it doesn't matter who you are, what kind of discipline that you race with. You look even at one of the fastest track record holders in all of track history, Joey Saldana. He said himself many years ago, if you can't get through the back straight, you can't get around the entire place.
No, that is very true, and I'm sure that a lot of drivers will be keeping an eye out on what they need to do over the course of the racing that they'll have today. Heats, C, B, and A, or alphabets that go in towards the final, the main, and this brilliant feature. But let's take a look at where the championship lies at this moment and who are the players of the game to keep in mind. Christian Challoner is absolutely bossing it, and in fact the entire Mega Racing team is having a mega run of things right now. Christian Challoner on top, Nick Ottinger in second, Tom Abramaitis currently in third, just a 3-point gap between those two, and Brenton Foster in fourth position. You couldn't have asked for a better scene. Eric Smith is currently fifth for the Dog Bear Blue team, with Nathan Dowd in sixth position. Justin Morton is just 4 points back of Nathan Dowd, just 11 points splitting fifth through seventh right now, with Ozzy Milwane in eighth position. He's got his own fight with Kevin Hill. The two Evolve SimSport cars are ones to keep in mind, with Jeff Schmeier making his appearance down in European today. We're expecting a lot of drivers to be going up, down, and all around and making sure that they're getting the points that they need to in the pro division. In Sportsman, it's Doug Buchanan who's got control for Mad Sim Racing, just a 50-point gap. It's a really close battle up the top there with Nathan Medina and David Gargaro, who is there both for Vengeance, second and third. Murphy Nichols currently in fourth position, with Andrew Kotska in fifth place. Maurice Gamillion is currently in sixth there. The gap just 12 points back then. And his teammate just behind, Robert DeLoach, is seventh, with Spencer Todd and Cody Richardson tied on points on 170 back. The top 10 rounded out by Chris Yatito in 10th position, 180 points adrift at this point in time. Over in Legends, this is your over 60s category overall, and it's currently being controlled by Kevin Hill, but Brian Barnes is looking to try and get some points in for Dog Bear Red. He's also got Wayne Hutchinson for company just behind him, 209 points adrift of your lead. Brian McGreevy is currently in fourth position, with Ray Partridge in fifth. Those are what you would call the more regular drivers out there. And then you get other drivers who've been jumping in for the occasional race here and there. William Fletcher, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Brian Bennett, David Henger, and Adam Plunkett making up the top 10 over in the Legends standings. But as we flip on over to Legends Sport, this is where Maurice Gamillion has been in control for the Forge PC Racer Sport team. Robert Deloach just behind him in second. And you look at the great battles going on for third as well. Scrivener there is just dealing with Paulson at this point in time. Just 2 points between those drivers. Robert Covey in fifth, Roger Shank in sixth position. Then you've got Gerard Gilbert, Ernie Ludwig, and then you've got Jason McSparron and Mark Redeker rounding out the top 10 there. But Devon, Teams Championship, well, it's been a runaway to begin with when it's come to the pro teams.
Yeah, you look at Mega Racing Team with over 1,300 gap over Forge PC Racer Pro 1. Then you get things a little bit closer. Evolve Sim Sports is right on the tail end of Forge. They got Dog Bear Red, UX Lola in the top 5. Then you start to spread out a little bit more and more. Kinetic Racing Americas right now in 6th. Dog Bear Blue in 7th. Black Magic Motorsports, Forge PC Racer Pro 2, and Sector 5 PT rounding out the top 10 in the pro team standings. Sports team is a little bit tighter on the top, though. Bright Esports with only a 26-point gap over Mad Sim Racing. Then we'll start to kind of gap some guys up with Vengeance Motorsports about 508 behind the lead in third. Evolve Sim Sports Academy is another big chunk behind them. And then you get more guys trying to fight each other. High Class Racing, only about a 50-point gap, 45-point gap, actually. Udox Frank in 6th. Dog Bear White in 7th. Howler Racing in 8th. Sector 5 Racing in 9th. And Dog Bear Gold right now rounding out your top 10 in the sport team standings. And like you said earlier, this is listed as a wild card race for the majors, and that's because anytime that you bring a group of individuals who are not typical dirt racers to a dirt track with any combo, you put them on a 305 sprint car, you put them in a midget on any dirt track, it will end up being a wild card race no matter what kind of dirt combo that you're going to bring some irregular dirt racers to.
Exactly, and I'm sure that these drivers will have a lot of time to get adjusted to what is there. The heats are only 10 laps long, so they don't have much to work with, but this is how the details look for today. Round 10 of 14, not long left to go in this series as we hit the back end of August, looking towards September. It's a 75-lap feature race, so firstly, you've got to make sure that you make it all the way to the end. They're driving this huge, hulking, big block modified. It's like driving a brick sometimes around a racing track like this. It's an open setup, so everyone's got a little something here and there that's going to give their drivers a small part of an advantage. But what is key, which was seen from the International Series, where cautions didn't count, and they had a caution every 2 laps on average, caution laps will count towards racing today, which means these races, they're going to go by in the blink of an eye, no matter what happens. They do have 1 spare car in their back pocket, so effectively, if you understand Formula-style racing, it's a T car, essentially. You get an extra one to jump in and say, oh, that one didn't work. We'll get another one in and go through, but no driver today here, Devon, wants to run into their action as the checkered flag just comes out in practice, and we're soon jumping to qualifying.
Yeah, once we get to tonight's A main, it is a long race at 75 laps, but anyone who has to go to a backup car, if you will, you're going to be out of the race. You're not going to be getting those waiver rounds. If you are involved in a wreck, your night is essentially over. 21 drivers right now registered, and so if you get into any sort of mess, expect yourself to be outside the top 20 if you happen to be the first guy with an issue.
Yeah, nobody wants to be in trouble early on, and the limit is 20 to move through into the finals, so that puts one driver in a difficult position, at least at this point in time. Andrew Waring then, first driver out on track in the number 3 in a very nice bright green machine, looking to gear up these laps. This first run, you've got this double apex as you go through 1 and 2. It takes a more natural line going right up to the top end of the circuit, trying to get some drive through, moving through 3 and 4, which has that more natural flow to it. An extra point, and 15.6 as he goes through. Lynn Kinchlow going quickest with a 15.503, and that at the moment will be happy only for Mark Stevenson to jump forward in the 51.
And contrary to popular belief in dirt cars, we have a brand new fresh track on iRacing for this qualifying session. Typically, you want to be on the inside lane whenever you're on a dirt track qualifying because everywhere it's fresh. The issue with these big block modifieds, they're pushing out 800 horsepower, but they're also over 2,500 pounds. So you can scrub off a lot of speed if you don't have the finesse when you're driving into the corner. You will just scrape all of your speed off through the center of the corner. So you have to find the right mixture of how much wheel you're putting into it and how much you are sliding around. The guys who can find that balance and not be totally on the bottom, find that double apex like you talked about, Jake. As we look on board here with Justin Morton, that's the kind of lap that you are looking for here.
Yeah, he's not going to have the ability to take a tear off of his virtual reality set here today, but he is certainly pushing. His last lap then comes over the line, and he does improve further, a 15.288. Oh, he'll be happy with that because he's clear by over a 1/10 of a second right now in the number 9, and he'll have every reason to be excited. Christian Challoner moves second fastest on his final lap, a 15.307. Good enough for the front row, at least, and he will have himself prime sitting when it comes to the heats. Of course, they'll split them up, odds and evens, as they go through, so every single time you can get through, that's going to be mega. But you'd also have to say, on top of that, there are a couple drivers who have waited to go and put their qualifying efforts in, the likes of Joshua Wolf, for example, Brian Barnes, haven't gone out there, haven't set those lap times as of yet. Justin Kirby for the Blackmagic Motorsports team finds himself 10th fastest right now, 15.5.
And you see a lot of the guys who are right now around that, really outside the top 5, those are the guys who are taking a little bit wider entry or wider exit into the corner, not really making use of that double apex, and it's oh so deceiving the way how this back straightaway, definitely see right there, it's not a straightaway. It really does catch up with you if you push a little bit too far, because you expect it to straighten out and then just doesn't, just curls back into the inside. It completely befuddles you on corner exit of 2, and it makes you readjust almost every single lap what you want to do on entry of turn number 3. There is no real comparable point to the front straightaway anywhere near the back straight. So for some of these road racers, I think you have the ability, because you have to learn so many marks in road racing, to readjust yourself throughout the race on this short 3/8 mile oval as opposed to the 2, 3, 4 mile tracks that some of these guys are used to, and be able to make those finer point adjustments as the night goes on and as the back straightaway specifically wears out, because unlike most dirt tracks, the entire back straightaway at one point is going to completely slick over because of how sideways the cars are going down the straightaway.
Yeah, they certainly are. Here's Trevor Vavrovsky out on circuit. Now, he's already raced so far today as the likes of Brian Hallock moves up. Joshua Wolf up into second position now with a fantastic time. But Vavrovsky is running his second race here today. He ran earlier on in European majors, and because of the wildcard ruling here today, Devon, they're allowed to run as many as they like here today, but the key is they only score in their essentially home split as we're inside the final minute going through. I believe pretty much everyone has put a timing together on the board, but as things go, you're allowed to run anything you want, but you're only going to score points for your home race. So Vavrovsky here today, he's going to be out there, but he's not going to be scoring points.
And you know what? It ain't about points if you're going to go out there and win the race. You can go back and watch that European Majors race here on GSRC as well. And hey, every chance that you get to be on track, that's a chance you can get to be better. So if you can get a win, that's all that matters. And how about Joshua Wolf clocking in at P2, 3/1000ths of a second shy of Justin Morton's quick time as the final seconds tick off the clock.
The final seconds do tick off, and it does mean that after qualifying, we'll be running ourselves into heat formats, just 10 laps each, the heats, and the top 4 will be transferring through into the final. We can get confirmation of how this will all break down. We will have 3 heats of 7, so best 4 of 7 will go through. First and foremost, it'll be Justin Morton on the front here of Heat 1 with Christian Challoner alongside him. Row 2 will have Brian Barnes. He also raced earlier on today in Euro Majors with Justin Kirby in 4th position. Ozzy Milwane will go from 5th with Brian McGreevy in 6th, and rounding it out then is going to be Rob Powers in 7th position overall. So that's how Heat 1 is going to situate itself out. 10 laps isn't very long, and with the way that this track's working, with this green track essentially here, Devon, do you think that drivers aren't really going to deviate much from that bottom line, knowing that the track's not really going to move that much?
If you are 1st through 4th, you are not going to try to deviate from that inside line. If you are 5th, 6th, and 7th, you are going to find whatever you need to find to get that extra edge on someone. Because like you said, with how green this track is, really the inside is where you want to be. But we saw a few of these guys towards the back of this heat who were unable to hold that inside lane in qualifying. Now, if you're one of the guys in the back who can hold an inside lane and be able to finesse your way forward in this heat race, you will find yourself in a transfer spot. And remember, there's no inverting through qualifying here in iRacing. So Justin Morton qualified P1, he starts P1 this heat. Christian, he qualified 4th overall. He will start 2nd in this seat. So where you qualified plays a major factor in where you're going to start in the seat.
Absolutely. 2 laps then behind the iRacing pace truck. It says pace truck, official pace truck there above the rear right tyre, so there's an opportunity there. Track temperature, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 79 degrees air temperature. Not much wind either. This is what we call ideal conditions to go out and have a really cool race here today at Weed Sport at this point in time. Pace truck will dive off right, and the release from Justin Morton is fantastic. Green flag, and we are underway here from Weed Sport. One driver taking an immediate hard right is Justin Kirby. He drops back into 6th position, but a really nice start then off of this from Justin Morton. Exactly what they wanted, and everyone single file to begin.
Morton was instantaneously on the gas pedal once that truck peeled on off, although he did not quite gain the gap that I think that he wanted to find on Chalnier. So right now he only has about a 3/4 second gap, but like we said, everybody utilizing that bottom. You need to find the rear bumper of the car in front of you. You don't need to move them quite yet, but if they make a mistake, you have to be ready to pounce, because the top 4 is already starting to separate themselves.
Aussie Milwain is the closest of them to making a move. Brian Barnes, who is currently in 3rd position, has got to be careful of the wall there coming out to 4. Very easy to get it all shades of wrong. And just looking to try and dip underneath here goes the 14, searching it down into 3 and 4. Caught up on the brim, then on the outside goes Brian Barnes, and he's effectively been moved off the line here at lap 5.
And that was because of a self-error. Now Milwain is there to try to correct the issue for Barnes. When he pushes out in turn number 2 and a little bit in 4, he kind of lets that rear end slip out and he's scrubbing off speed. Milwain is able to take advantage. He is clear. Now Brian McGreevy, he is 1 spot out of that transfer, trying to kick Barnes out of the top 4.
He's trying to kick him away. He wants everything he can possibly get, but time is running out for Brian McGreevy, but he is right there in terms of this transfer. Morton, your leader. Challoner comfortably in 2nd. Milwain currently 3rd, and there's the tap around of Brian Barnes. He gets turned, and he's got to get himself going. We stay green here as Kirby gets caught up. McGreevy immediately on the radio to apologize, and because it does stay green, in the pits is Rob Powers. So Powers from the back of the field in trouble. His day done 2 laps ago, but this is exactly what was feared in terms of this one as they head to 3 to now 2 to go.
McGreevy had the right idea. He went into the corner with a lot of burst, but he just was too close to Brian Barnes, and what happened was simple. He went in too hot, and he just nailed the car in front of him, drove over him. I don't think it was intentional. He had the right idea, but just did not have the execution, and no cautions in these heat races.
No cautions there. There will be cautions, but it happened so late that it didn't quite happen. Coming out of 4, Justin Morton, the easiest ride in the world. He'll pick up the victory then in heat number 1 with Challoner 2nd, Aussie Milwain 3rd, and Brian McGreevy, courtesy then of that tap coming over the line, manages to move himself up into 4th, and there'll be a little bit of that wasn't quite what I wanted. I'm not too happy from Brian Barnes. He'll have work to do in that one. So Kirby, Barnes, and Powers are all going to have to go through consolation if they want to put themselves where they need to be here today. It was Heat 2, though, coming up. Joshua Wolf will be on the front for this, with Mark Stevenson alongside him. Andrew Waring and Trevor Vavrovsky will go on row 2. Lynn Kinchlow is going to be on the outside looking in to start things, with Ryan Steele in 6th and Jason Wallott in 7th position. That's how Heat 2 is going to look. 3 heats here today at Weed Sport Speedway, and they'll be certainly looking for that. You can see everyone is up on the grid, and they'll be taking themselves forward. I am interested, though, with the iRacing pace truck. You can see the brim's already formed, but already you can see making tyre tracks in that brim. That's going to not be ideal for drivers. They run over that and get themselves situated with the surface.
Now, a little bit later, that's going to be somewhat helpful, but right now, the track is too juiced up to worry about that. What's essentially happening here in iRacing is you have all these drivers using the inside lane, and all of that extra roost is starting to create a fluff in the middle of the track. In essence, the ability to create a second cushion, to an extent, can happen here in iRacing. You do see it sometimes in the real world as well. That really helps out when the track slicks off. It will give you an extra amount of grip. But right now, all it does is kind of hide what the track looks like and hides maybe your ultimate line. So it's not necessarily what you want early on. Once this track begins to slick off, you will welcome that. Right now, it's just not really that beneficial. It's more of a nuisance, if anything.
Well, if it's a nuisance right now, they're going to have to hope it pays to be a benefit later. But in this heat, they know they've got one thing and one thing only to think about. Get to top 4 and get there as soon as possible. Pace truck is going to dive off right. Heat 2 under the pace of Josh Wolf. Thank you very much. He is going to fly off of this start and get things going, and already beating and banging in and around 4th position. Pavlovsky getting shuffled away. Lynn Kinchlow managing to make that move forward and getting through. That was a helter-skelter of a start.
Kinchlow with a hip check there going into turn number 1. Vavrowski, though, is still there on the tail. You see him trying to use the high side of that new kind of created cushion, and you're starting to slowly see these guys work their way up, potentially use a little bit of that as well, as the bottom's going to start slicking off. A little bit of a bolster there from Vavrowski into Kinchlow. That's only going to allow the 44 to make a little bit of a gap here. He's in the final transfer spot.
He is in the final transfer spot, and Kinchlow will see the battling going on in front between Andrew Waring and Mark Stevenson. That's going to be key to keep in mind as well. Look at how the car sits down when they put the power on and leans over to that right-hand side as they search, and there's contact as they go through. Stevenson now on the exit of 2 gets that hit. Kinchlow on the radio saying, don't make an accident in front of me. You're going to bring everyone along for the ride. And suddenly, second on back becomes a battle. Josh Wolf has checked out. He is already halfway down the highway.
And you see the 44, Kinchlow trying to move up the track. Trying to create a second groove here. Vavrowski is still on that rear bumper. Ryan still not too far behind. We got a 3-car battle for that final transfer spot. Oh, so important, because the last thing that you want to have to deal with is going to that consolation. All this does is guarantee you a spot in the top 12 of the 8 feature if you can get yourself in a transfer.
God, what a drive from Vavrowski. He's got a really good run, but nowhere to use it as they now start to migrate up the circuit then through 2 and look to try and drive towards 3 and 4. Don't count Ryan Steele out of this one either. He's certainly thinking about it, gets tucked up underneath, has to check it up, and they all fan along that front stretch once more. 3 to go here at Weed Sport.
Missing nothing up front. Joshua Wolf has accumulated nearly a 2.5-second gap over Mark Stevenson. Kinchlow had himself a little bit of an opportunity there, but too much momentum from Kinchlow and Vavrowski, or excuse me, Steele actually had to move up the track a little bit to avoid Vavrowski kind of coming back down. So these 3 still all stuck up against one another, but Kinchlow cannot make another mistake like he did earlier.
White flag coming out then here in this second heat. Joshua Wolf in command. Stevenson second, Waring third, and it's on. Big send in 6th position for Ryan Steele. That's not going to work, but to the checker it's going to go. Joshua Wolf's going to comfortably take it here in the heat number 2, and it's still going to go on. Vavrowski getting it done at corner number 4. The up and under to steal the transfer.
Phenomenal move there by Vavrowski when he saw that 44 car slide up a little bit in turn number 3, made the last lap move to put him into tonight's feature.
Perfectly done. Joshua Wolf a runaway as he gets himself through. He was howling today with Mark Stevenson second. Andrew Waring will go through in third. And Trevor Vavrowski, what a run for him. Stealing it on the final corner. They don't ask you how, they ask you how many. He gets himself into 4th. He is in the finals as things go. Link through consolation with Ryan Steele and Jason Wallot wasn't quite too close in terms of how they go. They're already starting to run their 2 pace laps here, but this is how Heat 3 is going to stack up. It is going to be Brian Hallock who's on the front with Kevin Hill alongside for company. Brenton Foster is going from 3rd with Travis Walling in 4th. Wayne Hutchinson starts 5th with Tom Abramitis in 6th position with no Nick Ottinger. He's got to take advantage here today. Ray Partridge in 7th position as they go about. Was a very, very well fought, I thought there, Devon. Second heat out there, and we started to see that development of drivers trying to push a big move up to the top.
And we've seen both in Heat 1 and in Heat 2, even though that there is only one preferred line at this point, it is those little gaps that some of these drivers make where you can force the issue and build yourself a second groove on that inside lane, but it's got to work so precisely. They've done well so far. What are we going to see in this final heat race, though? Top 4 transfer to tonight's 8-feature event.
They certainly do, and of course the C main is going to be worth keeping in mind that they'll be going through, because that'll be a 20-lap battle that they'll be having to try and scrap themselves for. They're beating and banging already, trying to give themselves room. The 11 switched off completely. Green flag, we're underway. In the wall goes the 90 of Walling then, going through 1 and 2. So that's going to put him into some troubles here, but Brenton Foster can't get the run. He drops back into 4th position now as they squabble about behind the 5th and 6th. Wayne Hutchinson in the 17, holding off the 18. Only for a moment. They'll again be too wide here onto lap 2.
Foster pushes a little bit too high on exit. That's going to allow everyone behind him to close in just a little bit more. Kevin Hill and Warling, they are already nearly a second behind Brian Hollick. Warling tried to peek to that outside lane. Nothing there, though. Got on the brakes a little bit hard. Puts him back into the clutches of everyone looking from the outside in.
And now you've got Foster and Abramitis, the two teammates then, are fighting for one transfer spot. So troubles for Abramitis, he goes out of 4. That brings him backwards into the clutches of Hutchinson. Very easy to do. Fastest lap for Brian Halleck. He's checking away. 2nd and 3rd's looking a little bit juicy as well. Kevin Hill is going to have to look behind him because Walling's trying to go the uber long way around. Little tap to the wall.
Warling is doing everything that he can to add a higher lane, and just after he makes that mistake, Kevin Hill is the one pushing on corner exit, and Warling has to make all of that room back up. You can already see a glimpse on board here. Look down at the bottom of the track. You're starting to see where it's getting shiny. That means less grip on the track. That's why everyone is beginning to move up and use that fluff we were talking about earlier. Now it's becoming a viable resource. The only issue, everyone's using it, and in order to pass someone, you gotta pass them where they're not.
He's going down low again, trying to find the opportunities. Big lunge to the inside from Foster. He tries to figure out whether he can get past Travis Wall and give himself a little bit of help out there, but he knows that he's running out of time. 3 laps, door left open on that outside, but again, you're going to use that cushion. You're going to give yourself a little bit more to work with coming out of 4, and that gives you the drive to make things happen. 2.5 laps to go. It is Halleck out on in front, and we've seen that as a very common trend today.
I like the offensive mindset of Foster, but now he has to be concerned about driving a little defensively. You do not want to fall out of this final transfer spot as the 18 tries to push the cushion. Unable to grab that momentum, though, down the back straightaway. Who's going to be able to grab that final transfer spot?
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. It might be a battle between Walling, Foster, and Abramitis. And Foster again with a little look, but it is only going to be that. Coming to 4 then is Brian Halleck, who knows that he's got victory absolutely secured. And now the fight still goes on for that transfer. No room on the outside as they go through. Hill will be second. Walling will take 3rd. And Foster will just about hold off Tom Abramitis, who 3rd in the championship is going to have to do a lot of work when it comes to the B main, I believe it is going to be, as they figure out where they need to be. So Brian Halleck then will take that result then and take it by 1.8 seconds over Kevin Hill. Travis Walling will be in 3rd position with Brenton Foster in 4th. Tom Abramitis will be 5th, and there'll be Wayne Hutchinson in 6th. Ray Partridge will be classified in 7th position. The B main is a really interesting one right now. There's 9 drivers in this B main, and only 8 of them are going to move on forward. So one driver's going to be unlucky. Justin Kirby in control of the field with Lynn Kinchlow in 2nd position. Tom Abramitis will go in 3rd with Brian Barnes 4th. Ryan Steele will start 5th with Wayne Hutchinson in 6th. Rob Powers 7th. Jason Willott in 8th. Ray Partridge starting in 9th position. And the key, Devon, to this is that you double the length of what is a traditionally normal heat race. It's a 20-lap scrap that they're going to be going through, and one driver's going to be desperately unlucky.
We always talk about in racing, if you ain't first, you're last. I think that's from a certain movie, but the difference in this heat is if you ain't first, that's fine. Just don't be the last across the finish line, because everyone else will move on to tonight's 20-car A-feature event. Whoever finishes last gets to go home for the night. You do not want to be the only guy watching from the virtual pit stands tonight. You want to find a way into that A main, because if you are one of the 20 guys, that means you at least have a shot in that 75-lap feature.
Yeah, and a shot is what everybody wants, because even if you're down in 20th position, there is still a lot of maneuverability in the feature. 75 laps, that's a lot of time to give you that work. Justin Kirby off the front knows he's got some very quick drivers behind him that he's going to have to work with, and some drivers who will feel aggrieved that they didn't find themselves in position. If they're up there at the front, of course they want the victory. Pace Truck will dive in. They've all got to be alert, and they're really getting that drive fantastically out of 4 as, again, Kirby getting a good run. And let's get ourselves then going here for the B main as they start challenging. Abramitis in 3rd, looking pretty strong. It's a nice clean start. Ray Partridge then on the back. He's the one currently who's in the wrong position, the outside looking in.
Jake, I think we have a major development here. Rob Powers, right before that B main, his connection dropped, and because he dropped the green flag, he is done. He will not be able to make up any laps, so he will be the one car out. So Rob Powers will not be racing tonight. That means everyone on track right now just transferred to the A. That doesn't mean anyone's going to calm down, though, because what this is, you are qualifying for your starting position in the A main. 13th is first in this race. 14th in the A main is whoever finishes second. 3rd, 4th, so on, so forth. So you are fighting for your qualifying spot in the A main right now from wherever you finish.
Abramitis is having to check up then with Lynn Kinchlow on the front stretch. Not often that you get to hear that in terms of the way they go, and it's all down to power. They've got that huge amount of brake horsepower they've got to deal with, and essentially with the way these cars run, Devon, it's effectively a dump. You dump it in immediately and you get all of it at once. It's like it spools up and you've got to try and control a rampaging bull.
You called it a brick earlier. These things are bricks on wheels. They even look like it. And yeah, 2,500 pounds, 800 horsepower. The torque is ridiculous. These are 467 cubic inch engines, V8. So, yeah, they have a lot of oomph to them no matter where you put them on the track.
Ryan Steele with a fantastic move around the outside of Brian Barnes, and then Lynn Kinchlow losing out to Tom Abramitis around the outside as well. Around the outside seems to be the tail of the tape as things stands right now, and these drivers know that positioning will matter when they get themselves through. Kinchlow struggling again out of 4. Ryan Steele looking to try and send it big to the inside, but he gets too much slide as he tries to pivot it in, almost like putting the handbrake on as he goes through, and that, because they don't have a handbrake, it's like putting on the handbrake. That's why he loses out on the move.
Easiest way to put on a handbrake in a dirt car is over-rotate in a slick part of the racetrack. That will bring out the rear tires. That will bring you to a stop all right. And he was trying to use that inside lane where you see that black on the bottom of the track. That is where rubber goes. For all of you European and road racing guys, typically you want to run where the black is on a road course. You want to run in the rubber. It's the complete opposite in dirt racing. The rubber makes it slick. It loses grip on the track. You're always looking for where that next bit of moisture is on the racetrack. And whenever you get in that slick stuff, you are always going to have a chance of whipping that car and spinning around.
And for some who think that dirt racing is not really important in iRacing, as Steele gives a little tap to Kinchlow, gives a bigger tap to Kinchlow, and almost going around, there goes Brian Barnes. He has to put on a really big brakes as he gets back in front of the pack. Hutchinson and Partridge can't find a way through. That could have been disaster in a heartbeat and a handbag as they went through, and they're still scrapping it out here hard. Kinchlow having to really look behind at Ryan Steele to fight for 3rd and 4th right now. But for those who think that water and moisture on this track doesn't mean anything, this is one of the key individual parts of iRacing's system here, Devon, that makes rain, which will be coming sometime soon, a really interesting prospect.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, the tires that we have on dirt cars are kind of similar to rain tires like we saw today at the beginning of the NASCAR race at Watkins Glen, where they have the ridges and everything in them, and much like in a rain tire, when it's a dry track, you're trying to find the moisture with that tire. That way, it's kind of the same. Otherwise, though, you are looking where the rubber isn't. You're looking for the moisture constantly in these cars, trying to find wherever there's water. That's where the grip is in this track. Where we see that dark, fluffy stuff on the top, that's why they keep spraying up there. That's why it continues to push higher and higher on the track, because they're trying to use more and more of it to have that grip going around the track.
Well, Ryan Steele right now has got all the determination, but he can't find the move, and it is starting to get slightly frustrating. Do want to also keep my eyes out on the front of the field, because that gap is closing down. It's under a second now, 8/10 now, but running out of time is Tom Abramitis here to close it down. He's got to do 2/10 of a second every time. Brian Barnes then gets up way high going through as the battle still continues on. 3rd and 4th out there overall. Steele again looking to that high line and not finding it, but behind is where it started to get interesting. Barnes and Wallart and Hutchinson all there together started to scrap.
Absolutely relentless. Every spot that you gain in this race is one more spot forward. You are going to start in the feature event. Every single spot is important. Wallet doing everything that he can to keep Wayne Hutchinson behind him. This would be for the starting spot, second to last. So every spot that you can gain, the better. And back up forward. We'll see if Steele has anything here with a slide job in 3 and 4.
And back down underneath, Lynn Kinchlow trying to get through. Kinchlow getting up into the side, gives him a check. Checkered flag coming out for Justin Kirby. He's going to win this race then in the B main. He'll get Abramites just behind him, but the fight for third has been the interesting one. Trying to duck up underneath. He's not going to get the run though. Kinchlow holds off Steele as he goes through. Barnes, then Wallot, then Hutchinson. Partridge is upside down. He will classify as a finish, but he will not go over the line because he rolls it in the final corner. So troubles for Ray Partridge. He brings himself through. That will bring the B main then to conclusion, and we'll get results then of that as we take a little look though at the replay. This is what happened to Ray Partridge. Final corner here, Devon, and he just, that's a heavy hit on the inside.
I'd hate to admit that I might have done that myself as well. That's just one of the risks you take trying to take that bottom lane, and that was a blast, Jake. That was just 20 laps, though. We got a 75-lapper coming up.
Exactly. You can almost quadruple the distance there. Justin Kirby picking up the victory then ahead of Tom Abramitis in second position. Lynn Kinchlow will finish third, just staving off Ryan Steele. Those two will have a bit of fun then when it comes to the main coming up. Brian Barnes will finish off in fifth with Jason Wallot in sixth. Wayne Hutchinson will be seventh with Ray Partridge in eighth, and Rob Powers, the internet, deciding that he is the outside looking in, and the powers that be told him, no, you cannot advance over to the feature. 5 minutes of warm-up then is going to be allotted to all of these drivers to get an understanding of the conditions out there on track, and this is an ever-evolving track, part of iRacing's dynamic track system, which is what makes dirt racing here an ever-evolving track here in iRacing.
And it's just the same in the real world. The only things that I think are missing between sim racing, dirt racing, and the real world dirt racing is the effect that the weather and wind can have on drying out a track, making it dustier, making it so that there's less moisture in the track. But besides that, it's pretty dang close. Basically, the virtual iRacing crew is going to go take the blades out in the water truck just a little bit and revert the track state back to 50% for this A-feature event here at Weed Sport. And this is one of the newest dirt tracks on the iRacing simulator. And not to mention one of the few now that gets to have their pits outside the track, much like you see in the majority of all of dirt racing. But this track is historic, not just for this combo. Of course, big block racing is so adorned back in the Northeast. Here in New York, this track that was built back in 1955 actually closed back in 2011. Got some repairs, got a new owner and improvements, and opened back up in 2014. But besides the shows that this place has put on since 1955 with dirt races, this is also a fairgrounds property. So they have had concerts at this track. The names include Aerosmith, the Beach Boys, Guns N' Roses, Kiss, Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Alice Cooper, and many more have performed here at Weed Sport Speedway and at the fairgrounds. So a very historic place up in New York. And of course, this is the show in the real world, is the big block modifieds up in the Northeast.
Devon Henry there telling us his taste in music without telling us his taste in music there, ladies and gentlemen. So there's going to be so much that comes around from this brilliant track. And actually, it's part of what the Major Series does. It gives a different car track combination every round, and it challenges these drivers here, Devon, to go, well, if you are the best driver in iRacing, if you are the best all-arounder in iRacing, prove it. Race every format.
Exactly, and that's something that iRacing has done a great job with the Dirt Road series as well, constantly adding new tracks to that plethora of sim coding to include so many of the great tracks like Crandon. That is one of the off-road pleasures of the world, while also giving out some of the other tracks that you kind of put into, let's say, like a NASCAR track, and kind of have a dirt racing track like that for rallycross and whatnot. Very excited to see how the dirt system continues to grow in iRacing, because one thing when you look at a lot of the dirt racers who do iRacing, because it's not a lot of dirt racers are consistently always racing in different series and racing day to day, but from what we hear, for the most part, it's pretty realistic, and the dirt racers do enjoy getting on iRacing when they can, it seems like.
Yeah, they certainly do, and they'll be all looking to try and push. They'll all be looking to try and show that when it comes to dirt, they are the best. And there are a lot of drivers, especially in those initial heats, who really showed what was good. What I think is going to be key, though, is that someone like Justin Morton will have the easy job. He'll have the ability to break away early on the restarts. What we haven't really seen too much of is drivers getting into trouble here, Devon, with 40 seconds to go here in warm-up and getting into cautions. How will restart cycles affect the way they race?
And I think that's a great point, because when you look at what Justin Morton did in every single pole sitter in the heats, they blasted off on corner exit right when that truck peeled off the track, and they had an almost instantaneous 1 second advantage. Now, I think where we're going to see a difference is the fact that all three of those heat pole sitters are massively fast. And even if one can break away, if we don't get those restarts, if we go long green flag racing, lap traffic is going to play a massive role in this event to see not only who can have the fastest laps, but who can navigate traffic the best on what is going to be a very worn out surface.
It will. Checkered flag then out here at Weed Sport Speedway. Ladies and gentlemen, 75 laps are coming up. The cautions will count here today, and that is crucial in terms of getting this event fantastically sorted. But let's take ourselves through the grid and see exactly how everyone is going to stack up for today's race. Justin Morton will be with the whole shot in position number 1. He'll have Joshua Wolf on his outside. Brian Hallock will go third overall with Christian Challoner in 4th position. Mark Stevenson will line up 5th with Kevin Hill in 6th. Ozzie Milwain will go in 7th, and Andrew Waring in 8th position. Travis Walling starts 9th with Brian McGreevy rounding out the top 10, Devon.
Trevor Vavarsky will start in the 11th position. Brenton Foster in 12th. Inside of row number 7 will be Justin Kirby alongside Tom Abramatis. Lynn Kinchlow will be starting in 15th alongside Ryan Steele. Brian Barnes will be in the 17th position. Jason Wallat next to him. And in your final row will be Wayne Hutchinson and Ray Partridge. Your 20-car field for 75 laps here at Weed Sport.
Absolutely, 75 laps, and anything is possible here as they look to charge. Expect this track to develop as they go forward, and everyone's just trying to build up margin and momentum. This is probably the most heavily contested part of the championship in all of the major series. International, Europe, it's Americas, where all of the challenges go through, and there are some pretty big names up there near the front. Eyes on number 1, Christian Challoner. He is the championship leader for a reason, and he'll be looking to score once more. But Justin Morton wants to prove himself out the front. You've got Joshua Wolf, who's there on top of it as well. Brian Hallock hasn't seen too much showing near the front. This might be a time where some drivers here maybe have an advantage today by the fact that they're not usually by the front of the field. They'll have a chance to surprise some of their opponents, Devon.
And this might be a wild card race on the schedule, but we are nearing the conclusion of this season. If you need points, this is the place to get it. You have 75 laps on this 3/8 mile oval to get the job done. Who will be able to tame this track and get themselves a great run in here in the majors?
Exactly, the majors is the key. Pace truck is going to move on right and out of shot. Justin Morton looking to launch, and he gets a really good launch, but he is met every stage of the way by Josh Wolf. Green flag in the air here for the laps of 75 that we'll be taking. Wolf trying to work the outside line, but Morton has it covered. Well documented off of the starts. They all run and slide through 3 and 4 and look to try and find any advantage that they can possibly get their hands on. Now to the outside still will be Josh Wolf, but Alex now starts to look someone there, the 11, in a lot of trouble, and we've got a spinner there in the middle of the field. That's going to bring the first caution.
Trouble in 1 and 2 after we had a beautiful looking few shots. That's going to be the number 14 car going around and bringing out our first caution, Ozzie Milwain. He was inside the top 10, gets a little bit of a poke, and he gets sent around. First casualty of the day. Looks like that big block modified is going to be okay, though.
Well, the issue he's got is he was right up into the 51 as he was charging forward. So the look then into Mark Stevenson. They check both each other's run forward. The 3 of Andrew Waring tries to go to the inside, but there's simply put, Devon, no place to go.
Exactly. Once everyone started to accordion there, then you have to wonder, these front tires are exposed. This isn't like your dirt super late model where everything at least is kind of protected. These front tires can get messed up with this damaged model, so you got to be a little bit concerned if you were in that back and forth accordion there. Make sure that there's nothing wrong with that front end of your car before we go back green.
Absolutely, and I think it's very telling to see how much drivers playing with the suspension, because you look at Justin Morton, he is running 3 wheels right now as he goes through, and he's got a car that's completely jacked up differently to the number 21 of Brian Halleck behind. That is fascinating.
Whatever you can do to pick up spots, this is what you need to do early on in this race, because if we do get a long green flag run, we are going to have ourselves some cars start to spread out. But we had some beautiful visuals down the straightaways and through the corners. You see these cars 2 by 2, and you have to remember that the middle of the track right now is very slicked off. There's not a lot of grip in the middle, so we are going to see guys on these restarts pushing the cushion or almost right up on that inside wall. There's really only 2 viable lanes when we're side by side like this.
In VR, you will see the pace truck dive in. He wants to go early this time, and he'll be alert to it. Gets a good run. Green flag back in the air as we get going. Lap 6 here at Weedsport. And ultimately, Challoner's the one who gets a really good run. He moves up into 3rd position just behind as he runs forward. You got some great fanning out almost into the back then. Goes Mark Stevenson into Christian Challoner then, and Joshua Wolf gets a free pass then to move into 4th. They are really driving hard for it.
All the guys who are falling into the middle of the track, they are starting to push up. They don't have the grip right there, and they are not prepared for it when they take the inside lane and they slide up the middle. That's how the first caution was caused, and we saw some beating and banging. That was just the exact same product. Brendan Foster doing the same thing, trying to use the inside lane. Then you get out of the moisture and into the slick, and the cars are just sliding right up the track if you are not prepared for that.
There goes Challoner then, moving up into 2nd, using that high line fantastically. Brian Halleck, not much he can do about it then as they scrap. Stevenson as well, looking behind because Waring's trying to find a way through if he can. And Stevenson's going to get turned, and he's going to get completely turned. They'll junk up in the back for the 2nd caution.
He's going to roll over too. Just got out of shape again. That right there, that entire mess of big block modifieds that you see almost making a junkyard was purely a product of sliding into the middle of the track, into the rubber, into the slick stuff, lost the rear end, and unfortunately Kevin Hill was there to deliver the fatal blow, but there was nowhere he could go. See, the 51 just slides up. The 11 tags him once, and there's nothing anyone else could do there to little any of that. The 51 car just got the rear end kicked out. Too much speed was scrubbed, and that's just the result.
Yeah, track jams, and it's as simple as that. Just getting a little bit too much sideways up into the top lane, and then it's a chain reaction from that point onwards. And because he's gone upside down like that and can't self-right it here, Devon, he had to take the toe, and that's going to cost him a lap.
Exactly, and so for him, that could potentially be the end of his night. We will see, though, so caution lap's not counting. I'm not sure how long the toe takes, but they certainly take their good old time.
They do. Caution laps are counting, though, here for the...
Yeah, excuse me. You're correct, Jake.
So that's going to mean that it is going to cost time, and it is going to cost him a whole heap of places out there in racing today. So Morton, your leader. Challoner in 2nd. It's Halleck 3rd. It's Wolf 4th. And then the rest of the field have really made gains. Waring up 3. Walling up 3. Kevin Hill, yes, he's down 1. But you look, Tom Abramitis having a great run. He's up 6.
From 14th to 8th out of the B main. That right there is an accomplishment, and now being able to restack everyone, this might be a great benefactor for him because he's going to be on that high side, might be able to utilize the cushion here and gain a couple more spots.
Every position matters, and being on the high side on the restart might just be key. They're too wide because they're going to be going green this time by to start lap 14. Once more, Justin Morton with control as he's had it all race long. Green flag. We're back underway here from Weedsport. Challoner on the high side, trying to keep his position in 2nd. He'll manage that. Still down on the low side in about 5th position is Andrew Waring in the number 3, trying to challenge Wolf. And now we got Two Groove Racing in the most perfect sense they go through, but the low line is losing out. They're all going to have to try and jump high.
And that's what's really spectacular right now is it looks like the high side is dominant. Chandler is doing a phenomenal job on the high end, but right now Justin Morton, he just moved up to the top for the first time. He was doing great in the inside lane. He wants to take that lane away and see what exactly is working on the high side. Chandler now moving down to the bottom.
Yeah, and now everyone's trying to find the place where they can attack. Halleck in fourth, having to defend hard from Waring, who's having a search on that low side. He's not going to get there. The 90 as well, having a good run as they go forward. Waring getting the run underneath of Brian Halleck. He's going to try and pinch himself away through, get that drive off the exit. He's going to manage it. He's stolen one.
Waring was using every little bit of gap that he had to make that move possible. He is slowing so much down and using that moisture that's remaining on the inside lane. He's probably the fastest guy on the inside lane right now, while everyone else has migrated to the high side.
They have, and just behind as well, Tom Abramitis is joining someone in huge trouble on the front stretch. We're staying green right now. It looks like it's Justin Kirby who's been caught out in the wrong position then. We are staying green here at Weed Sport, lap 19, and Challenger trying to give chase, and all of a sudden Joshua Wolf is wise to the Waring effect, and Waring on that low line, once again trying to get that car sorted and trying to steal one away. They'll go door to door as they move into 1 and 2.
And this is an open setup race, so I think that Waring might have been anticipating how slicked off the center was going to be. He wanted to set his car up to utilize that inside lane. When you look at trying to pass someone right now, there are so many cars on the high side. He is the only one in the top 5 using the inside lane. That means for him a little bit less traffic that he has to deal with. One-on-one right now, trying to take over that 3rd position, and does so, moves up to the top as well.
Oh, I don't blame him. A huge slide from Josh Wolf as he tries to pivot back down low. That's not going to work as they go through. Challenger understands it now, thinking about going low, thinking about finding a way to drive and attack Justin Morton here at the front of this race. 22 laps in. There wasn't a change in Euro Majors. There might be a change here tonight when it comes to Americas, as Challenger again searching on that low side for the grips, not quite finding it. The cushion still working the dream for Justin Morton after his switch back up top.
And right now, I think that your top 3 are the only guys who have really been able to utilize both the inside and the outside at whatever need that they must have. Although Joshua Wolf getting back on Andrew Waring, Wolf has been able to utilize that inside lane. Now he's vying to get back that 3rd position.
And they're fighting behind as well, because Halleck and Walling are having that high side, low side battle, which is so synonymous with dirt racing as they now run forward through. Wolf really sliding it through. He's going to be in trouble. And now Halleck's going to have to start looking behind because he's dropping like a stone. He'll have Ken Hill. He'll have Tom Abramitis there. Foster will be thinking. Steele, I'll tell you what, Ryan Steele's having an underrated race at the moment as they go through, and just look at the dirt that they're kicking up here on this clay oval. Rafa Nadal would absolutely love playing tennis on this surface right now.
I don't doubt it one bit. And how about Ryan Steele? Came out of the B main, started 16th. He is now in the 10th position. 49 laps to go this time by. That's about the average length of one of your big real-world dirt racing features. A lot of racing still to go, and a lot of evolution still left in this track.
Yeah, a lot of room to develop and grow. And now lap traffic will hit the leaders then. Justin Morton will look in front. He'll have Justin Kirby and Ray Partridge to get through. And Challenger now is going to try and shadow him in the number 1 versus the number 9 every single stage of the way. The track, no way to go. They'll have to go the long way around in order to make this happen, and getting so close to that wall as they run through turn 1. This is the scariest part of this race. He's going to have to dive down low here as Morton, as he threads the needle through and gets himself through. Now suddenly Challenger behind. He's got to make it 3 wide, and he's going to just split the middle.
Boy, that's a gutsy move by Challenger. It's never fun to do that with lead lap cars, much less trying to work your way through lap cars. And I have to wonder what the mindset is right now for Christian Challenger. Does he want to just hang back and let Justin Morton try to fight through the lap cars if the next group is not too far away? Or does he want to attack now, take the lead, and try to be up front for when they reach this next group of lap traffic? Still a lot of racing to go. It's all about if you want the leader to be the guinea pig or if you want to take charge and have that lead.
I think that look to the low line said all you needed to know that he wanted to go low, he wanted to start attacking, but he just didn't have the angle to make it happen. It is scrapping around Halleck right now. Look at this, Halleck, Abramitis, Foster in there, Kevin Hill, 4 or 5 all together at this point in time, and this is a scrap for top 10 points. This is a big battle at this moment, and everyone's just trying to find a lane to go and attack. 4 go low, 2 go high behind.
5-car battle, and Brian Halleck is glad that it's all in his virtual rear view mirror, but he is not happy that he is the one that everyone is trying to make a prey. The 18 car making the move to the outside. Abrominus is now, a little attack from Foster, and around goes the 21.
Caution comes out then. Halleck in trouble. Also, Ryan Steele had to go all the way to the infield to try and escape that one. Manages to get himself back onto the racing surface. But that was a really good green flag run. And it was just when drivers started to get a little bit greedy, wanted to take a little bit more out of this track, where it stops. A reprieve for Justin Morton at the front. But here's your GSRC replay.
And that's gut-wrenching for that black 21 car. Watch the black and white 23 really dives it into the corner. We saw that in the heat race. You won in there. I think he was going to slide up to the top, but hey, they're right there. You can't do that. In the 21 car of Halleck, he was in the 6th position. Now he's going to have to falter all the way back to 12th. Good job able to loop that car around, though. Minimize the damage, but you just got to hate that from just outside the top 5 to now having to fight your way back into the top 10 somehow.
Dr. Foster just told him, take your medicine. Not much that you can argue about that. Brenton Foster up then into 7th position, and it puts all the way back down for Brian Halleck in the 21 from 3rd all the way back to 14th. It tells you all you need to know about how far back they've moved. Tom Abramitis now up into 6th position. He's gained 8 in this race. Kinchlow has gained 6. Foster now up 5 in this one. Those are your big movers at this stage. You've got Travis Walling, who's up 4, and you've got Andrew Waring in 3rd. He's up 5 of his own, so he's got a lot of work that he can certainly go with. We got 39 laps to go. It'll be 38 when they cross the line. Justin Morton in control. Pace truck due to come off on this lap, and we'll be back. Some green flag running here from Weed Sports Speedway as this clay oval proves to be great. Big run early. Challoner got a little hit to the sides he went through, and this is going to open up Andrew Waring, who's loved that low side. He's going to go searching for it, maybe a little bit of a push too deep, and that's going to bring Challoner into 2nd position still.
If Waring and Wolf want to prove that they have a chance to win this race, this is where you have to do it. We saw them battling each other on that last green flag stretch. You have to make a move on Challoner here and keep Justin Morton in your grasp. The top 2 left these 2. Now they have to find a way, if they want to prove they can win this race, to hold on to these top 2 cars. One to the wall, that's Challoner.
And he goes up and over. He does right himself. That's crucial. But Christian Challoner, who was searching so much to try and chase down the gap of Justin Morton, brings the 4th caution. And it just looked like the car just didn't grip. It just straightened back up on him.
Absolutely gut-wrenching for the driver, the number 1 machine in 2nd position. Watch him go in here. Checks up for Justin Morton in the front end. Just turns to the right. Man, that is an absolute heartbreaker from battling for the win. There's still a handful of laps left, but man, having to come from the back of the field after being the fastest car of the race, potentially, man, that's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Well, on the radio, Challoner apologizing for it after the checkup. That went through, so he goes up and over and goes for a ride. Crucially, though, he's able to keep the car running, and he's got to go all the way through the pack now to bring himself back in. His championship lead might just shrink a little bit tonight if things are to stay as they are. 1 car then down then in the pit lane as things look right now, and that will be Justin Kirby getting himself back going. He's 2 laps down at this point in time. There's no lucky dog here in this series for dirt racing, so if you're 2 laps down, you're stuck. You're gonna have to do it the hard way. You're gonna have to pass the leader twice.
You can't get repairs also in dirt racing. Here, since the pit road is outside the track, you get like 3 seconds or something, but you can actually get repairs done.
Can get repairs, and that is going to be crucial. You just got to quickly stick a bit of tape on it. Morton then on the restart then, 33 laps to go. He has the lead. You got Waring in, Walling in 2nd, Wolf in 3rd, Waring in 4th position, Abramitis up into 5th, and now here comes the charge as they run in towards 3 and 4 once again, and it's that outside line where it's looking pretty good. 3 wide almost in the middle, contact with the 11 and the 10 as a caution comes out in the back.
How about that 90 car, Travis Worling? We had not talked a lot about him, but he was on that outside lane vying for that 2nd position. Might he be someone to throw his name in the hat of a potential winner here tonight? We'll take a look at what happens for this caution. That will bring us within 30 laps to go when we get back to green flag racing. A little bit further back in the pack, the 68 car slides a little bit. The 17 car was coming down. That just caused a little bit of a mess for Brian McGreevy in that 68 car. And we also saw Brian Hollick get a little bit of a late contact in that as well. And unfortunately for him, he was that guy running in the 6th position before about 2 cautions ago happens. He'll get a little bit of a lick here. Almost put one over. Believe it or not, Jake, they actually used to do snowmobile racing here back in the 70s. I think that looked very similar to that.
It very much did. You had that jump there, and on the outside, that is a late hit on the outside, getting away with one out there. Big dig, go home. Well, he's got the big dig, and I'll tell you what, he's racing from home, so he's definitely got the mantra sorted there. But ultimately, at this point, it's another couple of laps which checks off Justin Morton's list, and this is exactly what he wants. Check the laps off, because the more laps he spends in this position right now, it's the less laps he has to worry about defending behind from Walling and Wolf.
And Chandler was the one who got that big lick. He's going to restart in the 14th position, so he's not in a terrible place. He's inside the top 15 coming to, we're going to green about 28 laps to go, so he might have an opportunity to make something out of this, what could have been a horrendous day, but there's still something to salvage for that number 1 car in this race.
Oh, there absolutely is. Number 1's not going to give up any shade of anything out there. I had the privilege of sharing the commentary box with him on European split, and he has such a great base knowledge of what makes the car tick. You've just got to be so alert to it. Big wide line from 90 of Travis Walling. He wants a run. Morton goes for it. Green flag back underway. Lap 47 of 75 as they all run through. Morton right up to the top as he looks to cover it. Josh Wolf down on the low side trying to figure out if he's got an angle. Watch out for the 3. You have to check up massively with a little bit of contact.
Morton using whatever is part of that cushion, able to slide all the way up to the wall and gain a little bit of momentum. Whirling trying to fend off Wolf for that 2nd position. That 90 car on the high side, trying to prove that he can be a podium finisher in this race as he got around Wolf and Whirling. Now he pushed a little bit too far, though. The 3 car gets around. Whirling back into 4th. He gives a big shove to Waring going into 1.
Gives him the shove and says, I want to go through. Abramitis on the bottom then's going to start getting into play. Remember, he had to go through the transfers to try and get himself in through the B main, and he's now fighting up potentially for a podium. What a drive this would be as they all keep squabbling it on. Josh Wolf down on the bottom. It's covering all that's needed to be. There's 1 car slowing up in the background. Brenton Foster getting into the wall. He's going to drop back a couple.
Yeah, Foster loses a pair of positions. There might be something wrong with that car as he's back in the wall again. Tags 2 cars. Everyone
over he goes.
Except for him keeps it okay. He climbs the wall, and he's going to take a wild ride down the front straight.
And that's how quickly a car can go from good to bad here at Weed Sport. Yes, you can give it a little bit of a knock here, Devon, but there's a little bit of a knock, and then there's what's happened here to 23 of Brenton Foster.
That car got a smidge demonic there. Black and white 23 tried the Justin Morton line, got himself a heap load of outside wall. Everything looks okay, and when he goes into this corner, though, it just doesn't turn. He gets back on the wall again. Very luckily for these 2 cars, they don't get sent around. There's the snowmobile racing again. The 1 car really gets a big lick out of that 23. Gotta wonder what damage is on those 3 cars that made contact during that wreck with Brenton Foster.
Well, they call it a modified for a reason, and it means that they can modify it themselves mid-race with the way they go. You can see here, he goes through, searching for it, and this is just a little bit of a look in terms of how the middle of the pack really does not have much fun with this. Up into the wall, you're going to see off the exit, and that's how quickly it can go from bad to worse as they run. 22 laps to go right now. Morton, it's Wolf now up into 2nd, Waring in 3rd, Abramitis into P4. I'll tell you what, is he Abramitis or Leonidas? Either way, he is certainly fighting like as if he's up against 300.
He has been impeccable, and it really does make you wonder why he had to run that B main plus 10 on the race, and he is not done yet. Starting on the high side here, we'll see what he's able to do. I don't know if he has enough to get by Waring, depending on what he's able to do, but tremendous run for the 18 car here. He'll have a little bit of something to say, I think.
He will have something to say, and that something will be, hello, I'm on the outside. You try and drive to win the race. And he'll be certainly hoping that he has that in the back pocket. They'll go to 20 laps to go. Lap 56, they'll get themselves back going again. Green flag in the air. Morton with another wonder launch as he goes off forward, but Waring on the inside moves up with the slide job, and he'll move himself up in the look at the bottom. Walling now trying to search for it, and he's going to get covered covered and blocked as they go through 3 wide for the briefest moment. And on the exit, Abramitis goes up on 2.
Banging doors as we are starting to feel a little bit of that urgency and intensity with under 20 laps to go in the American Major Series here at Weed Sport. I think for the most part, the cushion is where you want to be, but a few cars are able to utilize that inside lane. Right now, Travis Warling's trying to do whatever he can to make that inside lane work.
He's got to try something to make it work. He's got to find everything that's there. But every time I'm looking at Andrew Waring and the way he's driving, there's 2 around in the back. We stay green. Number 8's gone around. That's Ray Partridge in trouble then as he's gone around. And he's right in front of the entirety of the front of the pack. That brings a caution out.
Yeah, it got a little bit scary for a few guys. And hey, how about this, Jake? Don't look now. Challoner has moved himself into either the 9th or the 10th position, so he might salvage himself a top 10 out of this after wrecking from the 2nd position.
I had him 9th at the line, and I still have him 9th. So Challoner from last to 9th in half a race, he is motoring right now. This is where it goes wrong for Partridge. It's the 68 getting there. Brian McGreevy, 2nd straight instant he's in. I'll tell you what, Ray Partridge is lucky there. He doesn't get disqualified for driving backwards.
Yeah, he was just trying to find a way to loop it around as fast as he could. I think one of those few hits probably did a number to either the right front or the left front tire, and that car just wasn't going to turn anymore. And luckily, that didn't cause disaster for anyone else on the track.
Yeah, McGreevy just going in a little bit too deep. The contact with Partridge there. And it was like, essentially, it was almost a case of a hill start there. You could argue in that sense of McGreevy. He just got that little hit, and it was like, okay, yeah, we can go back going again.
I want to look back at some of the restarts that we've had, Jake, because no one has had anything for Justin Morton except initial start to the race. Since then, Morton has been able to launch off so well every single restart that I don't know if anyone has anything for him on those upcoming restarts. You're going to have to find a way to pass him using that inside lane because it's not going to happen on the outside, and it's not going to happen on a restart. He has just been magnificent all night getting back to that throttle.
I think drivers on the outside here, like Andrew Waring, have just got to predict it. It's very difficult to do, but if you can find a way to predict it, you're going to be in a really strong place to go and challenge up on that high line, because essentially they've got to come up the circuit. Morton's got to come up the circuit to challenge. Andrew Waring, I think, has had one of the tightest cars all race long. When he's driving in that groove, it's like he's got it pretty much hooked on rails, like he's trying to drift it in Initial D in the opening episode. Green flag back in the air, and we're back to racing again, and we've got ourselves not long left here. Lap 63 of 75. Waring okay in the position. I'll tell you what, watch out for 10. Trevor Vavrosky looking good. He was 2nd in European majors in a different car. Now he finds himself thinking of top 5'sville.
Yeah, we haven't talked a lot about him in the same aim, but he almost shot the gap 3 wide. He sends it in very hot again. Unable to make any room up, but he really was able to fight for positions here. Stuck in 7th. Challoner is also right behind him on that high side as well.
Yeah, and they might have a chance on the 11, who didn't get the best of runs, and suddenly Kevin Hill's going to be looking behind him as well. Gets himself 2 sideways, and that might have opened the door. Fighting going on as well for 3rd and 4th out there, or sorry, I should say 4th and 5th, 3rd, 4th and 5th, because you've got Joshua Wolf currently in 3rd, Walling in 4th, and Abramitis trying to search in for an angle in P5. Top 2 looking like they're going to scrap it out for the victory here today, and suddenly it looks like it's going to get a little bit dicey as they try and work the high side. Look at the drives they're all getting, and Challoner back in the wall again.
9 laps to go, trying to do everything that you can. 3 wide off of turn number 4 mid-pack, and these guys are fighting for every position that they can get. And at this point, there really is no good line on the track. This is so slicked off. You are just looking for the best of the worst at this point. That's why everyone's on the cushion, just trying to get the momentum that they can. But no one has tamed this track like Justin Morton so far. One more caution, though, coming out, and we're going to restack him again, Jake.
We are going to stack him back up. Wayne Hutchinson involved in it in the 17, and he got a turn from the 51 of Mark Stevenson, who was 4 laps down in this race. That's the worst feeling when you're out there in a dirt race, Devin, when the lap traffic turns you.
Yeah, that's a difficult situation to be in, and that's just going to decrease the number of laps that we're going to have left in this race. Starts with a little bit of an accordion there, and I don't know if that's the reaction from the 17 car that forces him to slide up, or if it's just the current track conditions, but that's how we all come down to what's going to be about a 5-lap shootout here at Weed Sport, and this track so historic, being built back in 1955. It's went through a lot of changes, including this was at first a 1/3 mile track, Jake, back when it opened and Stan Dudzinski was able to put together. This was built at his berry patch at the request of his wife. Wife said, I want to build a dirt track, and they did so in their berry patch, and now it's become one of the deep roots of dirt motorsports. That's the dirt racing, the dirt car logo that you see all over iRacing with so many of the dirt cars, whether it be the big block modifieds, the sprint cars, the street stocks, that dirt car logo. It's this company here that's here at Weed Sport, and because of these roots that they put in back in 1955, from Mr. Dudzinski's wife saying, I want a dirt track in our berry patch, it's still one of the 3 main offices across the nation for dirt car motorsports around the entire world today. So it's become very, very rooted in dirt racing history, and it's also a great part, not just dirt car, but also Weed Sport in the iRacing simulator as well.
Absolutely. Couldn't have dirt racing without it, and we're so glad that it's here on the iRacing service. But now it's about how can you predict the run. Justin Morton has led every lap so far here tonight, here from Weed Sport Speedway. Can he do it one more time? He gets a good run, and we've got the green flag, but it's not as good of a drive as he's had previously. Here comes the slide job from Waring. He's not going to quite get there, and Justin Morton gets himself back up and under.
Magnificent execution, though. That's all that you wanted. That's all you could do, is try to force him to take a different line into 3. He forced Morton to do that, but the 9 car had no troubles finding that outside lane, driving away. One chance at slide job again, not going to be able to get there, though. Will Morton set sail as everyone's trying to clobber one another towards the back?
They are starting to fight towards the back. Caution ends it from here. Walling trying to fight. Wolf and Hill going at it right now. Just a couple of popsicle sticks left to go.
It looks like no one is going to have anything for Justin Morton. A dominating performance, but who can get every position that they need possible? 1 lap to go left in New York at Weed Sport.
Oh, some brilliant action. Abramitis having to fight hard as Travis Walling will go around the outside. That's for 3rd. They start fighting back in 5th position. The 21 in trouble, but it's all Justin Morton. He had to survive everything. In VR, he's got it, but he's got it perfectly. 75 of the best laps. Justin Morton takes it here for the majors.
A masterclass in the majors. Justin Morton taking P1 in this event. And how about Brian Halleck? He will finish in 6th. He was a part of numerous issues throughout the field. He went to the back multiple times. He actually got around Challoner. So Halleck and Challoner 6th and 7th, they turned days that should have been nothing into quite a big something.
Oh, absolutely. And it's sometimes not about the 1st and 2nds that get you what you want. It is the 5th, the 6th, the 7th positions that you had to work for that make up a championship, and some wonderful work then being done. But welcome to victory lane number 9. Dukes of Hazzard just behind it. That is everything you want and then some. And why not? Let's get the burnouts going.
A little bit of flair from his fellow racers in the background. A little bit of flair in the dirt here at Weed Sport, claiming that D-shaped oval that is oh so hard to tame. He was absolutely magnificent tonight, Jake. Every restart he executed at the highest level.
He certainly did, as he goes up on top and says, this is where I'll celebrate. If iRacing could implement this system, we could get out of your car. That is what he'd do right now. Stand on top of that number 9 and say, that is what I deserve for that victory here, leading all of the laps. And I'll get a bit of a tap for company as well. We're going to step aside, though, for one moment here when it comes to the Global Sim Racing channel. Post-race coverage coming up after this.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world. I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, Dad, don't be a moron.
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect. How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
It was hard fought for. A lot of cautions disrupted the flow of the racing today, but it had to come down to who could manage it late on. Those final 5 laps proved to be a big talking point, but it's the driver who led every lap of the race who managed to get it all sorted. Justin Morton, 28 minutes, 39 seconds. What a thrill ride he had to deal with, holding off Andrew Waring by 0.6 of a second come the end. Tom Abramitis going from the B main to 3rd position. That will be a huge boon in his cap and will secure him up into 2nd overall in the championship. Travis Walling will take 4th position with Joshua Wolf in 5th. And then the 2 drivers that had to make recoveries here today, Brian Halleck and Christian Challoner, 6th and 7th. Tip your cap off to them. It doesn't look impressive here, but it was impressive the way they had to come back today. Brenton Foster will take 8th with Kevin Hill in 9th. Lynn Kinchlow will round out the top 10.
Brian Barnes will take home the 11th position. Ozzie Milwayne in 12th. Ryan Steele brings it home in 13th with Wayne Hutchinson in 14th. Trevor Borowski will have to sell for 15th after running towards the front most of the day. Brian McGreevy in 16th. Jason Wallet was the last car on the lead lap. Justin Kirby, Mark Stevenson, and Ray Partridge round out our 20-car field tonight in the American Majors at Weed Sport.
Some brilliant running, but let's head ourselves down to Victory Lane, where Justin Morton in the number 9 is waiting for us. Justin, that is exactly what you wanted today. 75 laps led, and ultimately you still had to fight hard for it at the end, but it looked like every challenger that came up to you, you were playing king of the hill. You were batting them away.
Yeah, thank you for that. Man, that was I'm so hyped up after that. I haven't been this excited for a win in a long time. Everybody at the front of that field was super tight. Andrew made my stomach drop on that slider. That was awesome.
So awesome racing, and surely an advert then for the Major Series to continue running dirt races when it comes to their season. How important was it to get those restarts sorted? Because especially the early stages, it looked like everyone had your number covered when it came to the way it was racing. But by the time you put 3 or 4 restarts in the book, you had the formula sorted. You were getting yourself about 5 car lengths off of the starts.
Yeah, I was slowly figuring out. That initial start, I completely botched and I smacked the inside wall. Yeah, Christian, he was doing a great job keeping up with me. And yeah, that was a super tight race.
So some magic racing in dirt next time out, which will be, I believe, the 11th of September, which is going to be the next run, which is about 2 to 3 weeks' time. It's going to be Motorsport, and you're going to be taking out effectively some camping trucks. It'll be a Silverado 250 that you'll be out there trying to get through. How are you going to sort of approach that in terms of moving forward a oval car on a road track?
Oh, I love running the NASCAR stuff on road courses. It's probably one of my better disciplines, if I would say that. It's just, I've always been comfortable with it. They're really fun to drive, and I'm really looking forward to Motorsport.
Well, you're looking forward to Motorsport, but right now you've got celebrations aplenty to go with. Your work in VR, of course, today we saw documented. Who gets it done for you, Justin? Shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh, yeah. I'd like to thank my team of Forge Racing. It's a great group of guys. They put in work this week. A lot of them have never run dirt before. Brian did a great job. Thanks, Jason, for doing our paint. He's another one of our Sportsman team members. Rethread Co. for sponsoring us along with Majors Garage. Thanks to Brandon Proudfoot. He helped a lot with our setups. Some guys really liked the Major setup. I used it a bunch too. Great setups. And thank you guys for doing the broadcast, and you do a fantastic job.
No worries, Justin Morton there with a big lights to flag victory, and when it sunk in his stomach, he knew that he had to really fight for it. Here was the driver who tried everything and a bit more here. He's with Devin Henry. This is Andrew Waring.
And Andrew, you put yourself from the 8th position to finish this race in 2nd, But man, you had a couple chances there to try to get Justin, including a really, really well-executed slide job there towards the end. What else did you need to grab this feature victory?
I don't know what I could have done to take that away from him. I mean, there's a reason he led every lap and fought off Christian and myself and the rest of the field. So hats off to him. You know, this is the first experience with dirt ovals I've had on iRacing. So I'm just trying to play catch up, and I learned a lot that race. So it was a lot more fun than I thought, and I'm pretty surprised to be second, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, not too shabby if that's your first real big dip into dirt oval racing, to take yourself from 8th to 2nd in a race where we saw a few different incidents up front that took out or at least pushed back a few of our top contenders. You worked your way from 8th to 2nd in a very tight field in a very two-lane dominant racetrack. What did it take? What did you have to learn throughout those 75 laps to get yourself to P2 to begin with and then hold off everyone behind you in all those restarts?
Yeah, I mean, once the way the track was deteriorating, I mean, I didn't know too much, but it looked like it was going to be a one-lane track around lap 40. So I just tried to be as, smooth as I could, especially on the bottom. It was working really well. A lot of people were struggling in the middle, especially when it got really greasy. So just, bit of luck, bit of, observation of the track state. And then at the end there, I just didn't want to take, Justin out, but I had to go for it. So just didn't know where I'd end up. So I'm happy I ended up in front of him and he could cross me over instead of just turning up into him.
And you end up in P2. Who do you have to thank for landing up on the podium here at Weed Sport?
All the Evolved guys. We got a couple new guys on the team, Nathan and David, and they've contributed a lot to the setup. As well as Kevin Hill and our sponsors and stuff. It's the next race is kind of a home race for us. A lot of us are located in the GTA area, so Motorsport being pretty close, we're looking forward to that next event. So
road course racing coming up next, but for now, a second place finish. Andrew, congratulations on landing up here on the podium.
Thanks, guys.
Some wonderful driving there from Andrew Waring. You couldn't have asked for much more on your first attempt. When it comes to dirt action, could have fooled me so easily and said he's a veteran of however many years as he's gone forward. But that is going to bring the curtains down on action tonight from the Majors Americas Series here, round 10. They'll only have 4 more races to go through overall. Want to give a massive thank you for tuning in here today to tonight's racing, and a massive thanks that goes to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additionally, we want to give a massive thank you to June Lalonde. Her music is fantastic. You can catch it out on Bandcamp if you haven't had the chance already. From the team today, from Devon, from Zach, and from Dougie, you can find more information about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media, which is posted in a little bit here right now, in fact, on your screen. And if you haven't had the chance already, go get some merchandise from us, gsrc.storenvy.com. You'll do us a world of good here if you manage to get a little bit more understanding. There's links as well in the YouTube description below, so make sure you subscribe, you like, you share, you do all of the great things. Keep yourself in on the Global Sim Racing channel. Our next race, it's September 11th, and it's going to be the Silverado 250 that you got to keep your eyes out on. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park or Motorsport. That is going to be a fantastic challenge. Same time, same place. But in terms of what's coming up next here with GSRC, it will be tomorrow at 11 p.m. Eastern. It will be the Porsche Owners Club at Watkins Glen and the boot layout. Make sure you check that out. All other series out there are going to be up on your screen, so mark them down on your calendar if you haven't already. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, with Justin Morton taking an almighty win from the front, Andrew Waring throwing everything on his rookie run that very nearly got there. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.